Destiny by Joanne Sahlender. Sometimes, fate has things in store for you that you cannot even begin to imagine. Little girls who like to dance are told they can grow up to be ballerinas. Little boys who love astronomy are told they can be astronauts. But what would you do if someone told you when you were 10 years old that you may grow up to save the world? How do you prepare for that? Or even take it seriously? Jimmy Fredericks was an only child and a seemingly normal 15-year-old teenager. He was a straight-A student who spent many nights reading comic books or hanging out with his best friend, Robert Greene. Robert had moved into the neighborhood with his family when Jimmy was just 10 years old. The boys looked very similar, and they soon began to think of themselves as brothers. Just prior to Robert moving in, Jimmy experienced a traumatizing event that he kept to himself. Jimmy had been told by a psychic at the 4th of July celebration about his impending future. Months later, while telling scary stories to each other while camping in the backyard, Jimmy recounted to Robert the story of his weird experience. According to Jimmy, there was a psychic that all the kids were going to. Jimmy decided after they were all through to go in himself. The psychic held Jimmy's hand, closed his eyes, and then opened them with a start. Jimmy could see the sweat forming on his brow and the flustered look on the psychic's face. He dropped Jimmy's hand.
You have a very complex future, young man. You will accomplish many things. You may even be called on to save the world.
Jimmy thought it was all a joke, but when he started to laugh, the psychic sternly continued.
Don't take this lightly, son. This premonition is not a laughing matter. Keep your eyes open. Now go. I have worked enough for today.
Jimmy told Robert how he left the fairgrounds stunned by what he had experienced. Robert tried to tell Jimmy that psychics are always outlandish when working at the fair. That is what they get paid to do. He tried to convince Jimmy that it was all a hoax, but he continued to be there if Jimmy needed to talk. He would always have his back. For many years, Jimmy remained traumatized by his visit to the fair. He could not shake what he had been told. It was ingrained in his soul. But what could the psychic have meant? Was this a prediction or a fabrication? What was he supposed to be looking for? Now at 15 years old, he was about to find out what the psychic had seen. Jimmy was adopted as an infant and never really felt at home with his adopted parents. He always felt like there was something missing, like he was the odd man out. He had no idea who he inherited his muscular build, blue eyes, and blonde hair from, or any of the circumstances surrounding his adoption. He just felt like he did not belong. In a strange coincidence, his best friend Robert was also adopted, also felt he was an outsider, and this fact bonded the boys together. One thing was for certain, no two blood brothers could have been any closer than Jimmy and Robert. One September evening, Jimmy was sleeping and he had the most unsettling dream. A window-like opening had appeared in a grassy field that seemed to be looking into another world. From what he could see, there were buildings and a landscape that looked to be more sophisticated than the current infrastructure. But it was only in the window and not in the field. It was more like a giant porthole. He found himself wanting to go through that window. Is that Earth? If not, what do the people who inhabit that place look like? Before he could dream any further, he awoke with a start.
Why did that dream feel so real? Am I going insane?
It seemed more like a true experience rather than a dream. He did not want people to think he was losing his mind, but he could not keep this to himself any longer. He knew that he could trust Robert, and he hoped his friend would believe him and help him get to the bottom of what was going on. As always, Robert was there to have his back. After hearing Jimmy's story, Robert reassured him.
I do not think you are crazy. You are the most normal person I know. Together, we are going to find out what is going on. Maybe there was something to what the psychic told you.
Over the next few weeks, Jimmy's dreams became more detailed. In his dreams, Jimmy occasionally saw alien-looking creatures with red eyes coming through the portal and stepping into our world. As soon as they passed the threshold into our world, they appeared to be 100% human. It was an amazing transformation. Jimmy had a premonition that these events might already be happening, and that somewhere, this portal existed and was allowing another species into our world for some unknown reason. If it was being kept a secret, it couldn't be for the good of humanity. We may need to get ready for the fight of our lives. Robert told his best friend that the next step would be to try to find where this supposed portal could be. It had to be somewhere in a remote area, if this was a covert operation. He told Jimmy to try to find any evidence in his dream that may point to a location.
I wish we could look at the dreams together. 2 heads are better than 1.
Robert again told Jimmy that even though he could not see the dreams, they were still a team and would solve this together. After an exceptionally clear dream, Jimmy felt he knew where this was taking place. There was a wooded area just south of their location that sat on the edge of a grassy valley which led to the ocean. There was an old windmill-shaped building that was just barely seen in his dream. Jimmy called Robert.
I've got it. The lighthouse. The lighthouse at the edge of the beach. That is where the portal is. Let's go.
Hold on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We are going to need backup. I think it's time that we include the police with this. If the portal is there, we will have proof positive, and they will know who to notify. We have to be smart about this.
Jimmy agreed, and he and Robert headed into town to try to convince their resource officer from school, Officer Bryant, to come with them. He had been their friend and school protector for years. If they could convince him, they were on their way. Officer Bryant seemed skeptical after hearing Jimmy's story, but after hearing from Robert, who earnestly verified all that Jimmy said, he agreed to go with them to the lighthouse. Officer Bryant asked Jimmy if he had any idea what the creatures from the portal could want in this world. If they wanted to take over or stage an invasion, all they had to do was invade as a group. Why come a few at a time and just assimilate into the crowd, so to speak? After walking for quite some time and entering a deserted valley, the group came upon what looked like a giant cloud floating between them and the lighthouse. As they lay on the grass watching this phenomenon, the cloud started to clear, and in its place was a giant portal.
I told you! I told you!
Jimmy whispered to his 2 companions. Just then, they saw a creature step through the portal, not far from where they were trying to keep a low profile. What they didn't see were the 2 fake humanoids who grabbed them from behind.
Let us go! What do you want from us? What are you doing here?
In a move that Jimmy and Robert did not see coming, Officer Bryant spoke to them.
We are not here to hurt anyone. We are from the planet Eros. We have been monitoring your planet since the very beginning, and now feel the need to intervene before the people of Earth destroy this planet. We have portals, such as this one, all around Earth. We have blended into your society in the hopes of righting wrongs, helping you discover new technologies, and to stop useless wars and famine. by fixing your errors and showing you how to solve your problems in a non-hostile way. We are trying to save your world. If you find a way to prevent us from our mission, your world will destroy itself. By letting us continue without revealing us, you will save your world. Many of our kind have assimilated so well into your population that they are now part of a human family, complete with children. These children are half human and half Aronian. The children have not been told. For as long as they remain on the Earth side of the portal, their appearance will not change. In time, the Earth will be a mix of both planets, and peace will prevail.
Jimmy and Robert looked at each other and both knew that the creature was telling the truth. For whatever reason, there was no doubt. There was no harm here, and Jimmy would be fulfilling the prophecy he learned when he was 10. All was as it should be. He felt at peace for the first time in a long time. He was getting the answers he had been seeking since he was 10 years old. Robert asked Officer Bryant if it was possible for the boys to cross over the portal to see the Aronian world. If they apparently breathed the same air, it was a possibility. There was no fear, just curiosity. The creature who had stepped out of the portal smiled.
We would be honored for you both to see our world. In fact, it may explain even more. And it will prove to you that we mean no harm.
Jimmy and Robert tentatively followed the four creatures to the portal. Officer Bryant entered first and quickly lost his human appearance. He motioned for the boys to follow his lead. Robert hesitantly crossed over in front of Jimmy. He turned back to look at his friend who was crossing over right behind him. What he saw made him gasp in amazement. He saw his best friend transforming before his eyes. At the same time, Jimmy watched as Robert, who had entered first, transformed into one of the alien beings. They each watched the same metamorphosis taking place in each other. Jimmy finally spoke first.
I knew we were the same. I believe this could classify us as brothers.
Officer Bryant spoke next.
Welcome home.
Ironically, there was no fear. They just kept staring at each other and themselves in amazement. Eventually, each boy adapted to their new appearance, as if they knew in their heart all along that this is who they truly were. Officer Bryant told Jimmy that he had been observing the two boys for a while. The aliens were making sure that Jimmy and Robert were leading a good life and were decent human beings. If they were bad seeds, they would have to be taken back to Eros. The alien culture only wanted creatures who would provide a good influence to remain on Earth. That was the whole point of the mission. If the aliens who infiltrated Earth had become just as destructive as Earthlings, there would be no point in this whole mission, and Earth would inevitably have to be destroyed. So it was this group's job to watch over the infiltrators, to keep everything on an even keel, and to save Earth from annihilation. They were also looking for recruits to join their team and help them seek out anyone who needed to be removed from Earth.
You mean we would join you here, on Eros, seek out aliens, and then return to Earth to follow and observe them? Like you, Officer Bryant?
Yes, boys. How about it? Would you like to join us? You would have the best of both worlds.
Jimmy and Robert looked at each other, shook hands, then turned to Officer Bryant and said in unison,
Where do we sign up?
Shadows whisper in the night, lost souls detour from the light, empty rooms filled with dread, ancient echoes of the dead. Moonlit paths winding cold, stories of horrors untold, dreams descend into despair. Fear the darkness if you dare. Welcome to your darkest fears, dreamscapes bringing silent tears, nightmares clawing at your sleep, secrets buried deep, so deep. Specters roam these corridors, scratching at the wooden floors. Windows creak in haunted breeze, time stands still in darkened scenes. Whispers in the attic crawl, phantom footsteps down the hall. Voices call you to the high, where the lonely spirits cry. Welcome to your darkest fears, dreamscapes bringing silent tears, nightmares clawing at your sleep, secrets buried deep, so deep. Oh, so deep. Oh, deep. Welcome to your darkest fears, dreamscapes bringing silent tears, nightmares clawing at your sleep, secrets buried deep, so deep, so deep. Oh, we're so deep. Oh, we're so deep.
We hope you have enjoyed this evening's tale of terror and dread. Thank you for drifting into the eerie world of Dreamscapes and Nightmares. We look forward to your next visit, where more unsettling tales and dark dreams await. Until then, sleep well, if you can.